Okay, B'siyata Dishmaya, we're going to be learning in Neshama Neshima, the beautiful book on Jewish breathwork. Everybody now, no matter where you are listening to this live or recorded, everybody quick inhale through the nostrils into the diaphragm. Hold it. Exhale out the mouth, long exhale, sigh. One more. Guy in the car, you also need to do this. One more time. Thank you, Hashem. You're a completely different person. Completely different person. Forget everything that was holding you back. Now we're going to get into these beautiful teachings we're going to be learning today. We're still in the chapter called Etz Chaim, the third part of this book, Neshama Neshima, written by the Tzaddik Rav Itzhak Israel or Israel Yitzchak Bezinson. Shlita, Bezat Hashem, may have a long life in Shalom Bayit. He's in Shana Rishana. He's 85 years old and he's in Shana Rishana. Look at that, brother. Look at that. Don't worry, don't ask questions, brother. Ask questions on the Tzadikim. Just be happy and hope that you're also married at 85. That's it. Bezat Hashem. So, he brings us here as source. We're going through all the different sources for breathwork in the Torah. And how could we go through this without mentioning Kabbalah Nevu'it, prophetic Kabbalah. The Chochmei HaEmet, the sages of the truth, which is a nickname for the Kabbalists, they say that there's three different types of this wisdom. There's Kabbalah Ma'asit, practical Kabbalah. There's Kabbalah Iyunit, theoretical Kabbalah. And there's Kabbalah Nevu'it, prophetic Kabbalah. Three different types of Kabbalah. The first, we're not going to talk about practical Kabbalah. Why? Because most of our rabbis tell us to push it away. We don't go there. Why? Because there's a lot of danger there. That's Darkei Mori, practical Kabbalah, right? If not understood properly, with high levels of Yirat Shamayim and a tradition and purity, etc., very quickly you can fall into Darkei Mori, which classically means superstitions and all these different things that come from the Goyim. Kme'od shonot, different types of amulets and things like that, which again, we're not saying they are bad, just very powerful and dangerous. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're playing with fire. So the majority and masses told us to step away from this. Pu'ulot nistarot, different hidden actions, right? Making calculations and all these different questions. Essentially, that's what practical Kabbalah is. Majority of the Chachamim tell a person to run away from it, from fire. Not because it's not kosher, because it is so kosher and you might not understand what's going on really. Next step is Kabbalah Iyunit, theoretical Kabbalah that is dealing essentially with Binyan Olam al Basis HaPartzufim, the creation and the structure of this world according to Partzufim, which again, Partzufim are structures and different makeups of a combination of certain sfirot to express a different thing in this world. Ein yikar inyan belimud. Lemrot shehi chokhma shlema bifnei atzma. Even though this is a complete wisdom by itself, right? This is essentially, right? Ishalshalut al-olamot. How did the world progress? How did Hashem's light come from an infinite light to creating worlds to the point that we have cups and trees and rocks and, right? Even though it's a complete wisdom by itself, the purpose of learning this kind of Kabbalah is not necessarily about the information itself. It's more about the benefit that comes out of learning that information, right? Again, learning how the light of Hashem progresses down to this world is not about necessarily knowing that. Bruchim Abayim, Tzadikim, Shalom Aleichem. It's more about knowing the outcome of what comes out of knowing that. תועלת זו תושג רק שתעזור למתלמד להשיג את קיום סוג הקבלה השלישית, דהיינו הקבלה הנבואית. Again, we're learning in Neshama Neshima. It's a book, a Jewish breathwork book, explaining the avodah of breathwork according to our mikorot, our sources. And we're learning now in a chapter of the book that's touching on different sources throughout the history of Am Yisrael and what they had to do with breathing, to show from Rashi, Zohar, Sefer Yetzirah, Pashtanim, Poskim, Mekubalim, everybody, what do the Jews have to say about breathwork? We're up to a chapter on Kabbalah Nevu'it, prophetic Kabbalah, which obviously is mainly brought down and mainly attributed to Rabbi Avraham Abulafia from about 900 years ago, right? And we're zocheh to have one of his sons here with us now. And we said that there's three different types of Kabbalah. There's Kabbalah Ma'asid, practical Kabbalah, that all of the Chachamim tell us to avoid. Not because it's not kosher, because it's very powerful and dangerous. And who are we to be messing there? Those who know what they're doing, they don't really ask permission because they know what they're doing and they were meant to do it, right? So they're not, we don't worry about their, right? People that work for the electric company, we're not worried when they go on the pole to work for elections. They know what they're doing, right? We shouldn't climb the electric pole, right? But it doesn't mean that no one should climb it. If you know what you're doing, you do it. And then there's Kabbalah Iyunit, there's theoretical Kabbalah, which is Arizal, Otzot Chaim, the development of Hashem's light. How is the world created? What is Ak? What is Atzilut? What is all these different names, right? And Partzufim and Sfirot. And there, the information is not the goal. The outcome is the goal. It's not about knowing exactly which world and which, and being able to map out all of the heavens. That's not the goal of learning that stuff. It's what comes out of it. And I'll tell you, he doesn't mention so much what comes out of it, but he says that that will only, meaning what comes out of it is only practical, is only applicable in your life if you have the third type of Kabbalah, which is Kabbalah Nevu'it, right? Like we said. What's Kabbalah Nevu'it? שחיציונותה כוללת כל מיני כוונות, מדיטציות, הגיות, צלילים, צרופים ואותיות. Externally, what is prophetic Kabbalah? It has different intentions, right? Kavanot, right? When you say this bracha, think about this, and this is what's going on. There's meditations. There's hagayot, meaning there's affirmations and things that you could say. Tzlilim, different sounds that you could make. Tzirufei otiyot, different permutations of letters that you could do. Arei shepnimiuta hi ach verak asagat dveikut b'Hashem. The chitzoniyut of it is intentions and kavanot and what is going on and all of these different inyanim and clothing that you wear and where's your beged and all of this and where do you put your body when you're praying and head movements, right? Rav Avraham Abulafia was famous for a lot of like Jewish kosher yoga can't be done without him. Meaning he's the one that broke down body movements that align with different kavanot and intentions. All of these things are external. Right? They're chitzoniyut, because they're physical again. The physical action of moving your head, that's an external thing. What is the inner aspect of all of those things? One thing only. Dveikut to Hashem. Attaching yourself to Hashem, having a deep, intimate relationship with Hashem. What will help you to get there? These external kavanot and yichudim and all these different things. על המודד להתלמד קודם כל בשליטה עצמית על כוח המידע משלו. Before you can get into any of these, you need to first work on controlling your mind, controlling your imagination, right? Imagination can lead us to very dark places in life and can also open up amazing gates of dveikut and things. Because again, if you imagine that you're bad and that you're not good and that the yetzara is there all the time, so you can also imagine that you're a tzaddik and that you're connected to Hashem and that you're flying in higher worlds. Not that you're fooling yourself and you're lying to yourself, but that, no, you know with emunah that these things exist. The Kabbalists have tons of books telling that there's worlds and there's olamot and there's importance and there's a different way to behave during korbanot and hodu than to psukei zimra, then to shema, then to the amidah. Why? Because you're in different worlds. Start to learn them about a little bit and use your imagination to really see yourself there and to do the avodas that they tried. Again, on your madriga, you can't be fooling yourself or anybody else, and you're definitely not fooling God. You have to be real with yourself and where you are, right? But your imagination is needed in avodat Hashem. And you have to be able to rule over it and have it in control. If you don't rule over it, you get very quickly into a lot of danger. Because again, the imagination can go that way and it can go the other way, right? And especially if you think you're going that way, but it's all for the external aspects, so that when you stand in the Amidah, someone should look at you while you're moving your head, because Rav Abuhatzeira said it's a yichud. If you want everybody else to be looking at you, so then your imagination is taking you to a bad place while doing a good thing. Right? That's not the goal. We have to really clarify what is going on inside here. And is it for me and Hashem, or is it for everybody else? If it's still for everybody else, you still don't control what's going on in there. Right? Only after you have control over your mind. עליו לעבוד על מערכת הספירות השייכות לו באופן מורחב יותר בכדי לטפל בעניין הכללי יותר שהוא חפץ לתקן. Then you can start to go into sfirot that rule over different things and can help you to get out. For example, what is he saying here? We talk about it a lot here. Alat amidot, right? And maybe this is why the Balatanya was so against it, because most people can't control their imagination. For example, you have a lust towards a certain thing. Don't give in to the physical lust that you're seeing. Contemplate on where it's rooted spiritually. Focus on the avodah of that sphira, and then you will be able to ascend above the klipa that was presented to you and take the light that was inside of it. Right? You see a chocolate, you have a lust for a chocolate, a ta'ava for a chocolate. Don't give in to the chocolates. Focus on the love of Hashem, the love of Am Yisrael, the love of the Torah, and you will get more ahavat Hashem instead of if you were to eat that chocolate. If you eat the chocolate, you became more like a chocolate. Right? The lust, though, was rooted in ahavat Hashem and chesed. If you do the avodah of chesed, you will have ascended up. Your imagination has to be strong to be able to do that. Because if it's not, you'll start to contemplate of love, and you can very quickly fall into fallen love, which can be much dirtier than chocolate. Much stronger, right?
And we better contemplate on chocolate, about love of Hashem, and chocolate.
Yeah. There's also the Chassidim talk about it. There's not giving into your lusts at all. And then if it's kosher and it's not forbidden, right? Because chocolate, like in that example, I used it specifically because it's not something that's forbidden. If it's forbidden, then for sure you have to run away from it, right? And that's why also if it's forbidden mamash, it's very dangerous to do this because you're using something that's forbidden to go up. But if you stay contemplating on the thing that's forbidden too much, then you're definitely going to fall down in your mind, in your own mind. And then you might actually give into it. Because you know that there's a light of love in there of Hashem, but it's in something that's forbidden. But you know there's a light there, so you try to get the light. No. Then you could very well fall. You have to be very strong. But there's another way that they say. Someone brought this down to me years ago before I got married. He said there's stop and there's stretch. And sometimes you have a lust, you have to stop it, and sometimes you stretch it, meaning not now, 5 minutes from now. And that's an extremely holy thing to do, and I've heard it before from Tzadikim, that's considered a fast. I think. But while you're eating food, if you just stop eating for a minute, it's like you fasted for a day. Go back to eating, continue eating after that. But stopping yourself when you're in the middle of a good shawarma, that's a lot of avoid. That can be a hard avoid, right? So you can definitely do that. והנה, לפי הדירוג שאותו ציינו לאל ד' רמות נשימה. Earlier in the book we mentioned 4 different levels of breathing. They were physical breathing, emotional breathing, intellectual breathing, and spiritual breathing. Physical breathing is just how we all breathe, right? Autonomous breathing that we all do. Emotional breathing is I go into a situation, let's say for example a party, and there is a happy, festive energy around me. So I get influenced by that and I start to feel happy and festive. It was an chitzoni, external, emotional vibe that I picked up on, and my breathing started to change according to the vibe in the room. And then there's an intellectual breathing where I understand in my mind something that causes my body and my breathing to change. Meaning you get excited for something that's about to happen. The vibe still isn't there physically in the room, but in your mind you know it's about to happen. Right? So your mind changes your breathing pattern. And then there's spiritual breathing, which is essentially any of those connected to Hashem, which is how we should be doing anything, right? So if we have these 3 levels of Kabbalah, and we have those 4 levels of breathing, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, then we have to understand we have to understand here another level to the spiritual aspect, and that's ruchanit nivu'it, spiritual and prophetic. Not just spiritual, also prophetic. We've tried to explain this very well until now. אין סוג זה שייך מבחינה מעשית לכל פלוני הניגש אליו ללא הכנה. This is not for anybody that just approaches this work without preparation, meaning without months and years of understanding and downloading what are these ideas, learning from other people that are already doing it. אמנם הידיעה בעצמה תתרום לו את שלה במידה המודדת, והמתחיל ידע את מקומו וישמור על המרחק הראוי. Knowing about it though, everybody needs to know about it. Why? Because if you are a person that's meditating, if you are a person that's trying to work on breathing and trying to get deeper inside your own body, you have to know where the dangers are. Right? So to know how to tap into Kabbalah Nevuit, now that we're learning our first class, in a few years hopefully we'll get there. But knowing about it will help you now that you know about it to navigate, to not fall and to not make mistakes and to be aware of the proper distance that you should be having from these kinds of ideas until you're able to make that distance less and less and less and less and come really into the avoda. For example, historically we have an asmachta for this. נצטט כמה מקורות מהמסורת הסודית שססגרה בימים הביניים אך באופן סמוי ביותר. In the Middle Ages, this was going around, but in a very hidden way, right? Now everybody in the world's talking Kabbalah and Chassidut and everything. We always had it. It's just it was left for the hidden societies within Am Yisrael. Every kehila had their mekubalim, right? Whether they called themselves mekubalim or not. For example, the Chafetz Chaim, in his lifetime, people didn't know the Chafetz Chaim was a mekubal. He's writing a halacha books about Lashon Hara, Mishnah Berurah. Who in the world knows he's a mekubal? I'll give you a hint where you can find it. Open the Shulchan Aruch, open Mishnah Berurah, and read the first Mishnah Berurah. See how much of a Kabbalist he is, right? All of Chafetz Chaim, by the way, all of Shmirat HaLashon, all of these teachings on Lashon, on guarding your mouth, how did we live until the 1930s without a halachic book on speaking? The Chafetz Chaim was the first person, the first Chacham we ever had that decided to bring his halachot and Lashon Hara. Where did he get it from? Because he was a mekubal, and he did sit every single night in his attic and do itbodedut, and they did find him having Hasidic books in his house, even though he was a Litvak, and all of that was true. But why? He didn't have to share it. He didn't have to say a word about it. No one knew about him. He was a very simple person, to the point he tells about himself that he learned the halacha of not speaking Lashon Hara about yourself once someone came to ask for a bracha in his town, and he told him, he's not such a big tzaddik, you can go home, Hashem will bless you. That guy beat him up. The Chafetz Chaim himself got beat up by this guy when he said, nah, you don't need to get a bracha from him. And then afterwards he said, thank you for teaching me another halacha. You can't even speak Lashon Hara about yourself. So we've always had mekubalim. Every kehila in Am Yisrael had a mekubalim. It's just they were left hidden. It was all hidden, especially in the Middle Ages. One of those warriors in the Middle Ages, purifying Am Yisrael and bringing down these Torahs and holding on to the tradition of Kabbalah, which is the prophetic tradition in Am Yisrael, was Rabbi Avraham Abulafia. And this is what he writes. These are his words. When you want to mention and evoke this holy name that is, this honorable name that is engraved up above, benikudo, with its nikudot, with its vowelage, kashet atzmecha v'itboded b'makom yuchad, beautify yourself, meaning adorn yourself, purify yourself, seclude yourself to a unique, special place. Mitboded, right? V'hitboded. He doesn't mean here what we call hitbodedut, talking to Hashem. He means what Reb Nachman used the word hitbodedut originally for, right? Seclude yourself and then talk to Hashem. The main thing is first, seclude yourself mentally and physically. Go to a place where there is no one there. Mentally go to a place where there is no one there. And then talk to Hashem. Hitbodedut comes from the word though, badad, to be alone, seclusion. So he says here, you want to mention the name, you want to evoke the name of Hashem, adorn yourself, separate yourself to a unique place, shelo yishma kolcha lezulatcha, that no one would be able to hear your voice at all, only you, v'teher libcha, and purify your heart, v'nafshecha, and your soul, mikol machshavot ha'olam hazeh, from all of the thoughts of this world, v'chashov be'ota sha'a tafred nafshecha migufcha. At that moment, when you're able to separate yourself from all mundane things, from all of the world matters, and you're secluded by yourself, and you're adorned yourself, meaning you're wearing the right clothing, you're clean, you've gone to the bathroom, you have nothing in you, and you can separate yourself from this world, at that moment, start to think about separating your body, separating your soul from your body. V'zeu tziuro, and this is what it looks like. Shetatchil azkiret od aleph be'eze nikud shetazkireu. When you start to mention the name, the letter Aleph, with whatever nikud that you want. Because Aleph teaches us, Ot Rishon maybe, yeah. Azkir Ot Rishon Be'ez Nikud. Let me read it. It doesn't matter here. What do you say? Whether you're using Yudke, Vavke, right, or Eki or anything else, you take that first letter with whatever Nikud is on it, right? That's for the sake of the example, because it's the best way to do it. Either way is Yudke, Vavke, right? You have Yudke, Vavke in front of you. There's different Nikud that you could put on it. There's different. You now, when you want to mention that first letter, with whatever Nikud you do, because it's the secret of the unity. Don't go too long in it. Only the length of one breath. Your kavanah should start with the length of one breath. Don't go too deep. Don't stop, right? Let's say, for example, you do Yod. I stopped, right? But he says don't stop at all until you get the whole entire expression out. Yod, the full letter, but in one breath. Right? Not too many breaths. Don't, like the Kabbalists do now, trying to stretch it out to do the kavanah. That's a different avoda, a different place. We're not talking about that now. You're meditating on a name, right? Say, or in your mind, right? Mention that letter. In one breath, do the kavanah. Until the end of that breath, but completely express it. Get it out. ותאריך בנשימה ההיא המיוחדת כפי שיעור כוח אריכות נשמתך האחד בכל מה שתוכל להאריך בה. As long as you can go, and this is where the Kabbalists come back in with that, why do they do that? Because you have to connect the kavanah, and you try to go as long as you can, though, on that one breath. So yes, we're taking one breath, and you want to express the word, the letter, completely. And he says to make it as long as possible. That's where those nigunim come in, right? ונגן באחד וגם בכל עוד שתזכיר באימה ויראה. Use a nigun, right? On that letter, and also in any other letter that you mention, with awe and pachad of what you're doing, right? Because you're doing a HaYichud, you're mentioning Hashem's name, you're not mentioning, again, make this very clear for everyone on camera and everybody sitting here. You are not allowed to say Yudke Vavke or any of the names of Hashem. We're not saying to do that, right? You could break them down into letters and contemplate on individual letters. You could meditate them. You could say the name in your head, right? You are not physically allowed to bring that name into this world. Do not make that mistake. I did not say to do that. I did not intend for you to misunderstand me in any way like that. Do not say the names, right? And I'm pretty sure Rav Shlomo Yehuda is also saying you not to say the names, but to focus on those letters and to do them while doing a kavanah and making sure that it's one full kavanah. B'tzurat hanigun, you have to have ema, ira, and pachad together with simchat hanefesh b'asagat shehi gdola. You have to have happiness in your soul, understanding how precious your soul is and how special your soul is. The fact that I'm a yid connecting to Hashem should bring joy to your heart. And the fact that you're connected to Hashem and in front of Hashem should bring awe to your heart. Both of them are needed together, and that's what's called dveikut, right? Dveikut is tiferet, which is made up of chesed and also gvura. And that's why it's represented by a hug. Because what is a hug? A physical act of constriction that is expressing an act of expansion. A hug shows love, but physically I'm constricting you. I'm holding you back. I'm doing an act of deen that expresses love. That is tiferet. You can't have attachment to Hashem and think everything's lovey-dovey and everything's fine and we're all okay, we're all going to make it till Olam Haba, I can do whatever I want. Very nice. No, you're in front of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, Melech Malchei HaMelechim. You should be shaking to your core when you're in front of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. With that said, Hashem loves you infinitely. And your neshama is an extension of His light, so feel happy. It's a balance that we have to learn a lot, right? Like we said before, you have to be able to control your imagination, because if you get in front of Hashem and you're just broken because you're in front of Hashem, so although that's good and you can get a lot of growth out of that, it's not the Yikar. You should know that it's Avinu Malkeinu, and Avinu comes first. It's Abba. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He loves you. With that said, have utmost respect. Hanigun b'chol od ve'od tieh b'dmut hanikud. When you take a name of Hashem and you make this nigun for each letter, it should be on that nikud. For example, like we mentioned the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim says there in the Mishnah Berurah that one of the names that your person should have in front of them at all times, meaning in their mind, and if not physically, is Yud Kei Vav Kei with the nikud Ira. Chirik, Shva, and Batach, Kamatz, if I'm not mistaken. And if you want to see it, go to Rav Itzhak's desk, Baruch Hashem. We were zoche to get one made for him, right? It's on his desk and it's there with that nikud that says in the Mishnah Berurah, right? Right from the Chafetz Chaim. For example, so then how would you say that yud? Yod, right? That you do it according to that nikud, right? Again, say it in your mind is better. Let's not play games here. All right. Even if Rav Avram Abuhatzeira is saying to do it, actually say the name, I'm telling you, don't do it. Right? Don't do it. Don't do it. You can do it in your mind. It's okay. But again, that letter Yud would be achirik, which is the sound E. However you want to do that nigun of play with the E, but it has to be achirik, according to what he's saying here. Then you get to the next. It'd be shva. What's a shva? Hey. Hey. It's just whatever. Right? So on and so forth. It should be, right? No, now he's saying it's not nikud. He says the nikud of that letter, which is called nikud motza. Nikud motza is the nikud for dat. If you ever look at the tikkun merkava, the tikkun nefesh, right, the Ben Ish Chai, you see dat, when he says there dat tachton, it's just the nikud of what the letter is. For example, how do you say the letter yud? Yod. Yod is how you say yud, really. It's not yud, it's yod. So what would be the vowel of yod? Oh, cholam, right? So when you come to say yod, you say yod. What is the nikud of hey? Tzere, hey, right? So on and so forth. However the letter sounds, and that's what's called nikud. That's what's called nikud motza. Why motza? Motza means the source. Where did it come from? So when you look at dat tachton, if you're looking at there at the kavanah, just to give this to you, when you look at dat tachton, what's the whole idea? From my perspective, whatever I'm going through, I need to look where did it come from, and that's just the letter. How is the letter said without any additions? How do you say yod? Yod. How do you say hey? And that's the nikud that you put on it. When you start to mention this, put your face towards the east. Lo lemata velo lemala. Not down and not up. You need to be sitting wrapped in white clothing. Freshly laundered. Or chadashim, or brand new. Al kol bigadecha, on all of your clothing, o al talitecha veroshcha muchtar bitfilin. Right? You have to be completely wrapped up in clothing. Everything has to be covered, right? Meaning socks, everything. Hands can be able to go inside the sleeves of the jalabiyah, right? Talit over you, tefillin on you. Bepanecha lamizrach, and your face towards Yerushalayim. Shemisham ha'or yotze la'olam. From there, the light comes into the world. V'lecha chamesh k'tzavot lehaniya bam roshcha, and you have 5 different places that you can lehaniya, to move your head in. V'cholam, and in the cholam, again this vowel that goes on top of the letters, tatchil be'emtza mizrach, you start in the middle of the east. V'zakech rayoncha v'ta'ale roshcha ima neshima me'ad me'ad, you'll start to purify your mind, and your head will start to ascend with each breath and breath, ad shetashlim roshcha lemala, until your head is completed upwardly. V'achar shetashlim v'tashtachaveh ad ha'aretz pam echad, after that you complete it, and you bow down, fully prostrate down to the land once, on the earth once. V'lo tavdil ben nishimat ha'elef לנשימת האלף לנשימת האות הדבק בו כי אם נשימה אחת קצרה או ארוכה. Don't have an interruption between the first letter and the second letter besides just one quick breath, short or long. בין האות הראשון לאות השם בהפוכים יש לך יכולת להנשים בית נשימות לבד, בלי מבטא ולא יותר. Between the first and the second, you have enough space only to have 2 breaths, not more, not less. ובתשלום כל תור ותור, יש לך רשות להנשים נשימות לבד ולא יותר. When you finish every line and line, you'll be able to have a break of 5 breaths and not more. אבל פחות מן ה5, הרשות בידיך. If you want to do less than 5, the choice is yours. You see here, whether you understood this or not, right? And again, like he said, this takes long times of achana. What we're seeing again and again here, and this is what he said in the beginning of this chapter of Etz Chaim, where he's going to bring a bunch of sources. He says, I'm going to bring sources now that are taken out of context. Why am I bringing these sources? To show to you that the Chachamim spoke about the importance of breath. Right? With all of the kavanot and movements and physical and mental movements that he's telling you to do, they all come with breath. It's important. Whether you're able to do what he just said right now, and I can tell you outright, I don't understand what he said to do. I don't get it. I understand a little bit because I know Abu Lafi is about head movements and this. I can understand the Hebrew that he's saying. Practically speaking, could I go right now and do it? No, I don't know how to do what I just read. What I do know though, what I can take away from this is that 100%, no matter what you're doing in life, you need to be breathing. You need to be breathing, right? You can be physically breathing, but you could also be spiritually breathing. And then you can be spiritually, prophetically breathing. Meaning you breathe physically, it's connected to a desire to connect to Hashem, and there's kavanot and intentions and directions. There's levels and levels and levels to this, but you need to be breathing. You need to have and connect breathing into your avodat Hashem. It's so essential. I can give you tips we've done throughout the book, but just to say it again, you find yourself in Amidah just going, Psukei Dizimra just going, just nothing wrong with that. It's good, you're in a flow. Hashem's speaking through your... But let's be conscious. One quick between each Tehillim of Psukei Dizimra can align you in levels that you cannot imagine. You cannot imagine. You start crying, your heart will open up in tefillah, everything will change. You get to the Amidah, all of us do this. We start to just say the Amidah. Whoever knows Rav Eliyahu, right? He always makes this joke. How in the world you say the Amidah and all of a sudden you find yourself in Birkat HaMazon? Right? How do you do that? Because you didn't breathe. You didn't breathe. The only way to prevent yourself from ever doing that is 1, having the Siddur in front of you and your finger on the page, and 2, breathing. If you breathe and you understand the importance of each neshima, you're not going to make those mistakes. Right? You're not going to go to those places. It's very, very important. Do one more little text here. V'itachen shinshom. This is a different text, right? Different place. This is from the book Mafteach HaShemot. The keys of the names. V'itachen shinshom ha'medaber v'lo yivateh b'sfatav ben b'yitziat haruach ben b'viyata. Aval lo yitachen shidaber v'yachnis ha'neshima yachad. It could be that a person can breathe and doesn't express anything while the air is coming in or while it's going out, right? We can all breathe and not make any noise or not say anything with our breathing. It can't be that you're speaking and inhaling at the same time. It could be though that you speak and exhale at the same time. You can't inhale and speak, but you can exhale and speak. Why? מפני שנקבי הנשימה, אף על פי שהם מן הגרון בכלל, שהוא נקב אחד לבד, יש להם 3 נקבים למסעם ולמתנם. Even though breath, the cavities of breath, right, meaning your nostrils and your mouth that go into your esophagus and into your lungs, there's only one. There's only one pipeline here that controls all of that, right? Even though that's the case, there are 3 different nikavim that deal with the bringing and taking out of breath. Right? There are 3 cavities on your face that deal with breathing. Right? Your 2 nostrils and your mouth. Those are the 3 cavities that deal with the one form of transportation of air in and out of the body. וידוע סוד שם כוחו המשולש ב3 י' שהוא 2 יחד ואחד לבדו. I don't know what he's talking about here, but there is a secret of the name Yud-K three different ways. Two that they're together and one that they're alone. And the two that are above and the one down is what, like your nostrils, right? Two above and one down. That is what's called segol, the Hebrew vowel for right? That segol is there. And Rabbi Pereira, just to bring this in, we're going to end with this. Rabbi Pereira Zatzal, Zecher Tzadik Kadosh Livracha from Yeshivat Beit El said, what's segol? Segol is segula. What's segula? What's a segula? To think about segol, yud, yud, yud. Hashem, which is yud. Israel, which is yud. And the what are you saying? Yud, yud, yud. Am Yisrael, Nishmat Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael. The Torah, the people, and Hashem. That's yud, yud, yud. That's segula. Segol, hey. Segula, to contemplate always on those three nikudot. And if you want, you have them right here in your face. And like we learned earlier in the book, the place of dveikut on a human body is right here. This is where Hashem is resting. Everything happens right here. It starts with your breathing, and it goes to the furthest extent with your speech and with your expression and how you talk to Hashem and how you bring it out and what you talk about in life. But it's all here. And this is the segol, and this is where all the chesed of Hashem takes place. As I'm talking, just developing a more, right? Breathing is chesed of Hashem. Eating, chesed of Hashem. Drinking, chesed of Hashem. The speech, chesed of Hashem. And that's all happening here in the segol. Oh Hashem. Zachinu lekayel Torot. Oh Hashem.